The co-founder of Home Depot says Bernie Sanders is the enemy to entrepreneurs.
But Bernie Sanders is out today with a plan that will tax Wall Street trades. Pennies on the dollar, but it's a start to pay for, among other things, college debt and maybe free college down the road.
Well, look, don't bring up Bernie Sanders because that's a red flag in front of me. Because he's the enemy of every entrepreneur that's ever going to be born in this country and has been born in.
And he's got it all backwards, actually. Bernie Sanders' ideas, all of this free stuff, people are really worried about, oh my gosh, Bernie Sanders and all this free stuff, free healthcare, free education, student loan debt, now just completely forgiven. And some have even mentioned childcare costs being totally forgiven or being subsidized. People are saying that this would be the enemy to entrepreneurs and to businesses, and that this would be a hindrance on our economy. And it's absolutely the exact opposite. We just have to stop and use our brains for a minute. Now, where Marcus, actually his name is Bernie Marcus, interestingly enough. He shares the same name as Bernie, but he definitely doesn't share much else. Bernie Marcus, the co-founder of Home Depot, where he's correct in some ways, is that Bernie Sanders' ideas of all of this free stuff, which we're going to get into, it's not free. It's not free, and that's okay that it's not free. But what he's talking about is these things are not the enemy to entrepreneurs, but they very well could be a little crippling when it comes to corporations, even when those things are lifted off their backs. And I'm going to explain why. So when you are working, let's start with the employees. If you work at a corporation, one of the benefits of working for the corporation is that you're going to get some perks, right? You're going to get maybe some good health care. And you might even choose a job or go after a company and want to work for a company that provides better health care than another company. A lot of them will offer education stipends. If you want to go to college or advance your career, then they're going to pay for it. A lot of them, even some of them even will forgive some student loan debt, or they'll help you pay those off. Some of them even provide childcare at the facility if you need that. So there's a lot of perks to some of these corporations. Now, most corporations don't offer all of those things. Most of them offer maybe healthcare, and that's it. The rest of these perks, you would have to go and hope to get yourself in with a really good company. But if that company isn't hiring, then you're just going to have to go with the company that offers maybe only healthcare. Now, if you're an employee at this company and you're excelling, you're doing really well, but you're not getting paid that much. You have all of these unique ideas. You're presenting them to your bosses. They're taking your unique ideas. The company now is making millions of dollars off of you. You're watching them do this. They're making millions of dollars off of you, and you get a 3% raise. That's what you get. Maybe you get a little bit of a Christmas bonus, a little thank you, maybe a watch. But otherwise, you're watching the company make millions of dollars off of your ideas, and you're getting very little for it. Now, you decide, I don't want to do this. I can go and start my own company and take my ideas and my genius ideas and take them to myself and build my own company rather than watching my bosses go and make a ton of money off of this. So you go and you do this, but before you make that decision, you realize, wait a minute, though, I've got a sick child. I have 3 kids, one of them's sick, one of them needs a heart valve replacement every 7 years. That's like my uncle. He was in that situation exactly with his 5-year-old daughter at the time that he left his company. And you're thinking, I can't leave because then my family would lose health care. That becomes a moot point if the government is the one providing the health care rather than your boss. Your boss can keep you there. Your boss can use that healthcare almost like a ransom to keep you there, knowing that you might not have any other options. And so your genius ideas are just going to have to stay with us, and we're just going to have to keep making millions of dollars off of you. Sorry, that's just the way this is going to work. But if the government comes in, if Bernie Sanders' plan actually gets implemented of Medicare for all of a sudden that employer loses that leverage on you. But at the same time, when you're a small business owner, think of it this way. Not only are you losing that leverage on your employees, but you're also gaining something as a small business owner. You no longer have to provide that health care for your employees. That is a massive burden off of a small business owner's back. If you are starting up a business and you're needing to hire employees, you're sitting there thinking, how can I do this? Because not only do I have to pay them their salaries, but now I have to provide them with these perks. And I'm a small business owner. I can't do that. I can't compete with the big corporations and draw talent out to me because I can't provide them with all of these perks that these corporations can. So it becomes a hindrance, actually, on fostering small businesses. It's a hindrance on entrepreneurs. That is the enemy. The enemy of entrepreneurs and the enemy of small business owners is actually corporations, and the ability for corporations to continue to have this leverage over their employees, knowing that small businesses can't offer the same thing. But if it wasn't on either of them, then everybody would have true freedom. You would have the freedom to leave that corporate job. You would have the freedom to start a business, and you would have the freedom to hire people and try to attract great talent towards your business. You would have all of this freedom. It would actually foster a more capitalist society, a more competitive, I should say, a more competitive society, for those of you that think that all of this would be a huge hindrance. Now, on the question of healthcare, of education, I want to get into this and student loan debt. In order to get the good jobs, you need to be educated, right? So if you're going to go and become an engineer and work as an engineer for a big company, you need to have an engineering degree. You need to have gone to college to do that. So you're going to have to go and get this education. And then when you go to your boss and they're offering you a salary, one of the biggest problems is you might say, well, you know, I would love this salary, except I'm now riddled in student loan debt that I needed to go get. I needed this education to get this job for your company. But in order for me to do that, I had to go into debt. So now the salary that you're offering me is unfortunately not enough. I need a little more because my student loan payments are $500 to $1,000. So that is also a hindrance on the entrepreneur who's hiring somebody and they say, look, I would love to work for you for that salary, but you're going to have to bump it up $1,000 because I've got student loans. And I got those student loans so I could work for you. So see how that works. Now, when that education cost, when the cost of college is eradicated, and when these student loan debts that currently people are burdened with are eradicated and college becomes completely free for everybody, then it's actually not something that's an enemy to entrepreneurs, but instead it's a benefit to entrepreneurs and a benefit to corporations. Because then they're getting these highly educated people and they can actually pay them a little less, because they don't have to worry about making sure that they can afford their cost of living. Cost of living is the biggest deterrent when hiring people, because you're sitting there thinking, well, shoot, I have to pay, the rising housing costs, and plus they have education loans that they need to pay for. And then I have to foot half their medical bills. And on top of it, they've got kids. And so I have to factor that in because they're going to want a higher salary because they're going to have to support their family. But when those things are eradicated, when those things are lifted off the backs of the entrepreneur and off the person, it actually adds to our economy. It adds to entrepreneurs and adds to small businesses. Not only that, but it adds to the economy. So let's just talk about the student loan debt being eradicated for just a second. Now, I currently pay about $500 a month in student loans. That money, that $500 a month, is going to a bank. That's where that money is going. It's going straight to a bank. And we know how banks are with money. So they're just taking my money, and God knows who knows what they're doing with it. But it's certainly not necessarily going back into the economy, facilitating growth in my community, helping small businesses. It's not doing any of that. But what if I were to gain that $500 back in my pocket? What do you think I'm going to do with it? I'm going to spend it. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to go to eat more. I'm going to go to restaurants. I'm going to go shopping more. I'm going to be dumping that $500 a month back into the economy. So this idea that these free student loans, you're going to pay off these student loans and that's going to be horrible. Like, how can we afford this? We can absolutely afford this because that money is going to be dumping right back into the economy rather than going to banks, to greedy banks. All of those trillions of dollars would be dumped into the economy. So now if you're thinking of starting a small business, I'll tell you this, if Bernie Sanders can push this through, if we can actually eradicate student loan debt, that would be a really good time to start a business, because so much more money would be dumped into the economy at that point. That is what you want. Same thing with, if we could get Medicare for all, great time to start a business, because you won't have to worry about providing that for your employees. You won't have to worry about student loans that your employees might be riddled with. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So it's actually not a hindrance to entrepreneurs. He is not the enemy to entrepreneurs. All you have to do is set aside your partisan politics and think with your brain and understand that actually these ideas of Medicare for all and free college education that's supported by the government, and student loan debts being eradicated, and even childcare costs being covered like they do in many countries, these are only things that are going to be boosting our economy. They are not things that are a hindrance. They're not, oh my gosh, these are going to cost. How are we going to afford this? How are we going to afford this? We have plenty of money. We're the wealthiest nation in the world. We can afford this. We absolutely can afford this. Why are you paying 1/3 of your taxes anyway to the government like you're paying a pittance to the king and you're not expecting anything back from it? That's what I don't understand. I don't understand why you're paying all this money to the government. And then when people like me say, hey, you know what? Let me think about this for a second. I'm paying 1/3 of my salary. So just think about that. If you make $3,000 a month, $1,000 a month are going off to the king, the government, the U.S. government, the king at the White House, the king on Capitol Hill. And what am I getting back? I'm sitting here saying, look, I actually kind of want something back for that $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And I kind of want something back. Now, if you want to say, oh, that's me being a socialist. No, I just think that's you being a little dense. Ask for something back. You're giving this money away and you're not asking for anything back. That to me is lunacy. You should absolutely be demanding for your healthcare costs to be covered so that you can remain healthy, so that your neighbors are healthy, so that you can ensure your kids don't end up contracting some disease from some kid at school because they don't get healthcare, but you do. Okay, great, you do. But what about the other kid? And now they're giving your kid a disease. You should be demanding that everybody around you is healthy. You should be demanding that everyone around you is intelligent, that we can afford to pay for education in a variety of types of education, not just college education, a lot of different types of education. You should be demanding this. You should be demanding that childcare is covered. You should be demanding that you are not reeled down in student debts. You could actually start demanding a lot more than that, like they do in other nations. They get a lot more. Like the United Emirates, you know what they get? They get grants for houses. Their citizens get extremely subsidized utilities. They get all of their education and their healthcare paid for. And in fact, if they have to leave the country for their healthcare because their nation doesn't provide it, they pay for it and they pay for a family member companion to go with you. And they do it. And it's not because, oh, well, taxes, you got to pay for it somehow. They say, you know what? We're a wealthy nation. We can afford it. We make money. United States is a money-making machine where it doesn't only make money off of taxes. We have many ways of making money. We have a lot of money in this nation. We print money. So look, we can afford this. And not only that, but it's beneficial for entrepreneurs. It's beneficial for your community. It's beneficial in every way. And also, you're just dumb for not asking for something back for your 1/3. Why aren't you demanding more? You are giving money away. That makes you a fool. You should absolutely be demanding that you get something back for your money. And if you want to call that socialism, then I guess that's what you want to call it. But that makes you foolish. It honestly does. So let's get our heads on straight and not listen to this Bernie Marcus guy. Let's instead listen to Bernie Sanders when he says the American people absolutely can afford and deserve these things. It's not just free everything. We've already paid for it. We just want our money's worth. Thank you so much for watching this show. Please subscribe and hit the bell. Also, if you'd like to support this show, you can. I've got my links down below with Patreon and PayPal, but really you just subscribing and hitting the bell really makes me happy. So thank you so much for watching.